All right, the mullahs of Iran, they have been put on notice. America will no longer be bowing down to their empty threats and their aggressive tactics. The days of blindly trusting and trying to bribe this rogue regime are now over, because hours ago, President Trump made the courageous decision to pull the United States out of this very flawed Iranian nuclear agreement. Let's take a look.
The Iranian regime is the leading state sponsor of terror. The deal allowed Iran to continue enriching uranium and, over time, reach the brink of a nuclear breakout. This disastrous deal gave this regime, and it's a regime of great terror, many billions of dollars, some of it in actual cash. Today, we have definitive proof that this Iranian promise was a lie. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
Thank God. Now, naturally, the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, he responded with a threat, saying that his rogue regime, they're ready to start enriching an unlimited amount of uranium if secondary negotiations with Europe do not yield positive results. Now, this hollow extortion may have worked with Obama, but not anymore. This is a new age of diplomacy based on the concept that Reagan taught us, peace through strength. It works. Watch this.
As we exit the Iran deal, we will be working with our allies to find a real, comprehensive, and lasting solution to the Iranian nuclear threat. In the meantime, powerful sanctions will go into full effect. If the regime continues its nuclear aspirations, it will have bigger problems than it has ever had before.
Now, of course, if they're serious about making the world a better place, ending their nuclear ambitions and immediately halting their efforts to destroy the United States and Israel, well, there would be still time to negotiate. Now, most U.S. sanctions will not be reinstated for another 90 days. Oil-related sanctions will take 180 days to come online. But let's be clear. President Trump is willing and ready to negotiate, just like he is with Little Rocket Man. Take a look.
The fact is, they are going to want to make a new and lasting deal, one that benefits all of Iran and the Iranian people. When they do, I am ready, willing, and able. Great things can happen for Iran, and great things can happen for the peace and stability that we all want in the Middle East.
All right, it's really simple. If Iran wants its people to prosper without the burden of U.S. sanctions, they just have to come to the table. Now, the leaders of Iran, they are corrupt. They are immoral. They are radical. This is a rogue theocracy, and they're suffering. People need better. Here's what President Trump had to say about that very subject also earlier today in this historic speech.
I want to deliver a message to the long-suffering people of Iran. The people of America stand with you. It has now been almost 40 years since this dictatorship seized power and took a proud nation hostage. Most of Iran's 80 million citizens have sadly never known an Iran that prospered in peace with its neighbors and commanded the admiration of the world.
And as you can imagine, many prominent Democrats, they are slamming the president's decision, including John Kerry. He, of course, has been busy trying to undermine the Trump administration by conducting potentially illegal shadow diplomacy. He said the Iran deal made our allies safer. Well, meanwhile, President Obama released an incredibly boring, lengthy, long-winded, holier-than-thou, sanctimonious statement calling the president's decision misguided. We'll spare you all those boring details. This country does not need diplomatic input from a president who oversaw the collapse of the Middle East, the unfettered expansion of Russian aggression, and a situation on the Korean Peninsula that was totally out of control. Oh, and he gave them $150 billion. And of course, while Democrats are complaining, America's closest ally in the Middle East, Israel, is under a daily imminent threat from Iran. They are applauding the president's decision. Here's what the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about the president.
Israel fully supports President Trump's bold decision today to reject the disastrous nuclear deal with the terrorist regime in Tehran. Israel has opposed the nuclear deal from the start because we said that rather than blocking Iran's path to a bomb, the deal actually paves Iran's path to an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs, and this within a few years' time. Israel thinks that President Trump did an historic move, and this is why Israel thanks President Trump for his courageous leadership, his commitment to confront the terrorist regime in Tehran, and his commitment to ensure that Iran never gets nuclear weapons. Not today, not in a decade, not ever.
It was just last week that Prime Minister Netanyahu who revealed Iran's secret nuclear program and its continued desire to develop a weapon system that is capable of delivering nuclear warheads. Still, way before Netanyahu went public with this intelligence, President Trump had long promised to scrap what a terrible deal he inherited. He kept his promise. Watch this.
My number one priority is to dismantle the disastrous deal with Iran. I have been in business a long time. I know deal making. And let me tell you, this deal is catastrophic for America, for Israel, and for the whole of the Middle East. This was just prior to the signing of the Iran deal, which gave back to Iran $150 billion and gave us absolutely nothing. It will go down in history as one of the worst deals ever negotiated. Never, ever, ever in my life have I seen any transaction so incompetently negotiated as our deal with Iran. And I mean never.
Now, tonight, the president is fulfilling that very important campaign promise. After years of bowing down to dictators, kissing the rings of despots, America is once again leading on the world stage, peace through strength. This is so important because if history has taught us anything, it is that appeasement never works. You may remember Neville Chamberlain. He was the British Prime Minister, declared peace in our time after caving in during negotiations after meeting Hitler in Munich. Take a look.
The settlement of the Czechoslovakian problem, which has now been achieved, is, in my view, only the prelude to a larger settlement in which all Europe may find peace.
Compare that to the great Winston Churchill. He vowed to win at all costs. He led with strength. He triumphed over evil in his time.
I would say to the House, as I said to those who have joined the government, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. You ask, what is our policy? I will say it is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might and with all the strength that God can give us, to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalogue of human crime. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be. For without victory, there is no survival.
What an incredible orator. And remember, during the bombing of Britain, he went out amongst the people the entire time, every day. Then, of course, you have former President Bill Clinton. Remember when he promised you that appeasing North Korea, bribing them, would prevent them from getting nuclear weapons. Here's what he promised the American people.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. South Korea and our other allies will be better protected. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons.
Of course, that deal we now know is an utter and complete failure. It gave North Korea cover to successfully develop their nuclear weapons. Now, compare that to President Ronald Reagan. He called the Soviet Union an evil empire. He demanded that Berlin Wall come down without concessions from the West. His own advisors said, don't do this. He did it anyway. Take a look.
There is one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
And the wall came down indeed. The Soviet Union collapsed. The Cold War effectively ended. Sadly, all of what we just showed you was lost on President Obama. He went out of his way to appease the mullahs in Iran, sending them boatloads of cash and other currency in what was in exchange for a simple, unverifiable promise. Oh, and they continue to spin their centrifuges. Remember this.
Today, after 2 years of negotiations, the United States, together with our international partners, has achieved something that decades of animosity has not: a comprehensive long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change, change that makes our country and the world safer and more secure. This deal is also in line with a tradition of American leadership.
It's very simple. Appeasement never works. Sucking up to dictators doesn't work. Only peace through strength will work. Now, this is playing out right before our eyes on the Korean Peninsula. Under President Trump, the United States sharpened their sanctions. They sent multiple carrier strike groups to the area. They pressured North Korea's most important ally, China. And the president ramped up his rhetoric, even calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man. Now, tonight, the United States and the world is closer than it has ever been to achieving peace on the peninsula and the denuclearization of North Korea. Secretary Pompeo just arrived in North Korea, where he will be conducting a series of negotiations ahead of the president's upcoming meeting. We're going to bring you any updates from these crucial talks as we get them. All right, but first, we have some new developments from the deep state. According to a brand new CBS News poll, more Americans now think, rightly so, Robert Mueller's witch hunt is, in fact, politically motivated. Now, this comes as the mainstream Destroy Trump media continues to do Mueller's bidding. Now, according to Newsbusters, get this, CBS, NBC spent a combined 30 seconds on the recent beatdown last Friday of the special counsel investigation from a federal judge. And meanwhile, President Trump's poll numbers, they're rising. This despite a Newsbusters study showing that network news broadcasts in this country featured negative stories about the president 90% of the time. Wow. And I've told you journalism's dead. And breaking tonight, the Senate Intel Committee, they released its first report on Russia election interference. The big takeaway, the committee is now confirming no votes were changed by Russia during the 2016 presidential election. We'll continue to follow that story. And meanwhile, the deep state's popularity is waning. Trump's popularity is soaring. Even more lawmakers are now pushing the Department of Justice to stop obstructing Congress and comply with the rule of law. The House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, House Majority Whip, Steve Scalise, they are now inching closer to holding sessions in contempt of Congress over the slow walk of these subpoenaed documents and the redactions and, of course, the claims of national security that turn out not to be true. Scalise will join us in a few minutes. But first, Judicial Watch tonight has announced the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, he may release previously redacted portions of the memo outlining the scope of the Mueller investigation. Finally. All right, also tonight, this is important. I want to address the so-called firestorm surrounding the president's pick to lead the CIA. Tomorrow, Gina Haspel, she is set to appear before the Senate for what will likely be a pretty contentious confirmation hearing. Democrats, the media, and anyone who generally hates Donald Trump have been trashing this career CIA official, slamming her treatment of terrorists after 9/11, when we lost nearly 3,000 Americans, and some alleging she was way too tough with some of the world's most notorious killers. I have said it before. Gina Haspel and many people who worked with her and worked with her for decades, guess what? They say she is without a doubt an American hero. She is smart, she is diligent, she is brave. And most importantly, her actions in the wake of 9/11 kept this country safe and brought justice to those people, those terrorists. Look at Osama bin Laden. He's at the bottom of the sea, in part because of the work like Gina Haspel. Remember, top CIA official Jose Rodriguez, right here on this program, told us that the enhanced interrogation programs that Haspel conducted were vital to America's war on terror. It led to the Courier, which led to bin Laden. Watch this. So, in other words, you're saying that the accusation that these enhanced interrogation techniques were used beyond what had already been disclosed, you're saying is false, number one, and that in spite of their suggestion that they were not successful, you're saying that, in fact, that's not true. You were there. It was successful.
It was very successful, and for those of us who were there, it is just amazing that they could have come to this conclusion. Those of us who read the intelligence coming out of our black sites every morning and who acted on that intelligence know the value, and basically it led to the destruction of the organization.
I know I looked a lot younger there, but the point is taken. The Senate needs to put politics aside, confirm Haspel as soon as possible. Joining us now with reaction, former Deputy Assistant to the President, Fox News National Security Strategist, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, NRA TV contributor Dan Bongino. We've got to start. The President keeps making promises and keeping him. The idea that you will suck up and bribe dictators, and if only we're a little nicer to the mullahs of Iran and give them $150 billion, then they'll be nice to us. Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu blew that out of the water last week, and still people want to stay in this bad deal. Why, Dr. Gorka?
Because they don't listen to the past. They don't understand history. I spent last Sunday in New York with some Holocaust survivors. Let me quote a Holocaust survivor on his lessons learned from World War II. He had a very simple message. When a group of people repeatedly calls for your destruction, sooner or later you should take them seriously. Well, guess what Iran has been doing since 1979, Sean? You don't give them pallets of cash. You don't sign a deal that really doesn't stop them acquiring nuclear weapons. You stop them from getting the weapons they wish to use against us and our friends like Israel. The president knew this in his bones. The JCPOA Iran deal had to be killed. He just put 2 9mm bullets in its head.
You know, Dan Bongino, I don't understand how we don't learn the lessons of history. The idea that you can negotiate with despots or bribe dictators, bribe those that threaten to destroy America, death to Israel is the case of the Iranian mullahs, and somehow money and bribery will work. It didn't work in North Korea. It didn't work in this deal. It's never going to work. And I think the only reason that Kim Jong-un is now willing to talk is because the show of military force, the president's good relationship with China, and the fact that Kim Jong-un knew he was going to lose everything.
Yeah, Sean, a couple of things on this. With the Iran deal first, you know, someone should inform the Iranians there was a deal, okay? This was never a negotiation. It was a manipulation. The Iranians played the Obama administration for fools. Sean, let me ask you a simple question, okay? Let's get common sense here. Let's just get dollars to donuts. The Iranians prevented us from looking at military installations to inspect those military installations for the production of nuclear weapons. Sean, where the heck do you think they're going to produce a nuclear weapon? The local Walmart? Of course they're going to do it in the military installations. I mean, this is common sense. This was never a deal. This was Obama getting played. The Iranians never had any intention of sticking to this deal. And I applaud President Trump for throwing this crap deal out the window.
Let's talk about Gina Haspel. She will say tomorrow, I can offer you my personal commitment clearly without reservation. Under my leadership at the CIA, we will not restart a detention and interrogation program. I'm assuming that means we're not going to have another event like 9/11, which I think created extraordinary circumstances. Dr. Gorka.
Nobody can make that statement. I think she's following the decisions that have been made in the United States since that time. I have a specific view on this. I was a trained interrogator in the UK. I'm not a massive fan of enhanced interrogation, but sometimes when there is a ticking time bomb and when you may be saving thousands of lives, then that decision may have to be taken. And remember, Sean, as you've told so many times to the American people, how many people were under enhanced interrogation in America?
That's
3.
right.
Three. We're not talking about this. This isn't some kind of Labour camp where we're just willy-nilly using this. The worst of the worst were compelled to give up information that saved lives. That's the end of the story.
Last word, Dan Bongino.
Yeah, I agree with Sebastian. I'm not a huge fan of enhanced interrogation, Sean. The problem is getting a precise definition. Some of the definitions the left wanted out there, standing for a long period of time, sleep deprivation. That sounds like a long day in the Secret Service where I used to work. So, you know, liberals, give us all a break and let's define exactly what we're talking about.
All right. Thank you both. The number of lawmakers turning the heat on the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to turn over documents related to the phony Russia probe continues to climb. Joining us now, he's one of the list of lawmakers that are jumping in. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. Congressman Scalise joins us now. Congressman, good to see you. I know you're in better health. I'm very thankful, as well as many other people are. You won't come right out and say it's time. Why?
Well, first, Sean, thank you for the prayers and the support. I appreciate it. Getting better every day. But look, I support Chairman Nunes in what he's doing, because what he's been doing is uncovering the truth. And frankly, there's a lot of things we've already found that raise serious questions about what the FBI's done in possibly abusing the FISA court. There's more that we need to get information on. And look, the FBI stonewalling, I don't know why Justice is trying to hide information, but we're going to use every tool we have to get the facts out and ultimately continue this investigation, Sean.
Yeah, well, we know that Rod Rosenstein, for example, begged Paul Ryan, not to release the information that ultimately became the Nunes memo up to the final hour after it had been subpoenaed a long time. We have slow walking. We have redactions. We have claims of national security that turn out to be false and erroneous. Right. Congress has a constitutional role of oversight. They have a right to these documents. I know the Attorney General is recused, but this is Congress's role, and they are not providing them the information that they legitimately deserve.
Right. Congress's role is this function that we've been actually carrying out. The Oversight Committee, and if you look at what Chairman Nunes and his Intelligence Committee have been doing, they've already uncovered a lot of things that raise real serious concerns about abuses of the FISA court. But there's still more that we're doing in this investigation. And Chairman Nunes ought to have every tool and use every tool to get this information. And we're going to get this, Sean, one way or the other. The FBI and the Department of Justice are going to have to comply. But think about this question, Sean. We've already raised serious questions about bad apples at the FBI. The FBI ought to be working with us to root these people out. Why would they do things like this? They sent this document. This was one of the documents they sent over. Practically the entire page is redacted. This is ridiculous. So we're going to continue working and doing our job to get this information. And Chairman Nunes has been doing a great job, and his committee, at uncovering more. But think about this, Sean. This shows you where the media wants to go with this. All day they want to talk about Russia and unrelated things. The economy just this week posted new record numbers. We've got the lowest unemployment right now since almost 20 years ago. We have the right track, wrong track is always an indicator of what's going to happen in elections. We crossed 50%. We're at 57% right now, where Americans think we're on the right track because of what President Trump's been doing.
If I invite you back in a month and they're still playing this game, will you support contempt?
Absolutely. Whatever Chairman Nunes thinks is the right course of action to get the facts out, I strongly support, because we're going to get to the bottom of this one way or the other.
All right, Congressman, we're glad you're feeling better. Welcome back.